Hey y'all, I am Victor E. I help people find insight to empower. And today I wanted to, while I'm painting, talk about tools for grieving. And the way I like to think about it is to have one set of tools, let's say, to cultivate resilience, emotional resilience, mental resilience, uh, to cultivate an overall and overarching sense of peace, contentment, and well-being, and then another set of tools for in the moment, for when you've been practicing, but you've just had something catch you by surprise, be it a death of a loved one, somebody triggering childhood stuff. Maybe you don't even know what it is. It's just a lot of emotion coming in at like in the present moment, and you're not even thinking about the more long-term overarching tools. So those more, I'll probably start with like what takes precedence here, what feels like takes precedence, and that's those like in the moment, on the fly tools. Um, and unfortunately, I don't have a quick fix for you. I mean, I've been through a lot of traumas, neglect, abandonment, emotional abuse, a bit of physical abuse in my development, in my early teens, and a lot of stuff, emotional and mental, and some physical, during my time in the U.S. Marines. And so, yeah, there's just nothing that I found in my uh, going on like 10 years, 10-ish years since like well, a little bit more than that. Let's say started around 2012 when I really like started getting into psychology and using the GI Bill to study up on that. So coming up on 10 years, um, there's just nothing that I found in psychology, philosophy, self-development, um, healing traumas. Like there's just a lot of research that I've done, and none of it points to eliminating 100% any of the pain and suffering that comes part and parcel with life. The best any Eastern philosophy and Western medicine and psychology can bring us is to manage um, the pain that we've come to learn to live with, and really start to master that or overcome it, so that it's not something that victimizes us, rather gives us meaning and purpose in life. And so anything on the fly, and probably like the best thing that I've ever learned that I can hopefully add to your life to add some value, is when those overwhelming emotions come in, breathe until they pass. I apologize if that's unsatisfactory, let's say. Um, but yeah, in terms of like living a happy life, I think the best we can do and hope for and train ourselves for is to learn to ask ourselves and the people around us, the world around us, if you have roommates or live with family or significant others, ask your employers for a bit of time and space. Hopefully, we're coming to the day where we can take mental health days. But one of the biggest things is in asking for the time and space that we need to process not bypass, but process the emotional and or mental and or physical suffering that we're moving through. And I hope you're paying special attention to the words that I'm using here, because I'm not being mindless or accidental at all. It really is suffering, this thing that we move through. And if we're not moving through it, if we're bypassing it, that's when it just exacerbates the symptoms. We want to treat the underlying cause so that the symptoms over time will disappear. But if we're self-medicating, if we're, even, this might be a bit controversial, but if we're taking prescription medication, especially abusing it, and I mean that's something that I've used and moved through as well, was antidepressants, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers is what they were called, not antipsychotics. I was diagnosed with major depression, general anxiety, post-traumatic stress and complex PTSD, CPTSD, bipolar. There were a lot of different names for what ultimately, the way it helped me understand it, was having learned to adapt and survive in the world in such a way that was in constant response to traumas that had already passed. So it was a way to survive and a way to cope, but I didn't realize it wasn't modeled to me until much later on. That, something as simple as like, I can set boundaries, I can have wants, I can have needs. These very basic and simple things were not shown or modeled. In fact, they were, like, what was modeled was the polar opposite, right? Learning to navigate a hostile, unsafe family environment, and having unconsciously enlisted in military service as a continuation of that environment. Worse in some ways, and it had its highlights and lowlights. But through it all, one, it helps to acknowledge that you've been through worse stuff. And if you're going through the worst thing in your life, then knowing that you've survived other stuff, so you can survive this. And again, when those overwhelming emotions and feelings come up, asking for the time and space, getting to a safe space, your room, your bathroom, wherever you can, and breathing. Breathing, to me, I've found, is the action of processing very difficult emotions. There are different breathing techniques that you can use, that you can look up. I have some listed in my channel under breathing techniques or exercises. But if you're really trying to energize yourself, a quick one is just to focus more on your inhale, deeper inhales than your exhale. And if you're really trying to calm down your nervous system, when it's in that triggered fight or flight state, is to focus more on a slow and controlled exhale. And I wish we didn't have to go through these things on one level. On another, more begrudging level, I can see how the darkness in life tends to add value to our overall experience and tends to make us stronger and more resilient. But yeah, when it sucks, and it feels part of having that triggered fight or flight system is that it feels like it's just never going to stop. But as soon as you start breathing, it's like proving to your body, we're getting through this. So that's like the quicker fixer-upper or whatever for when you're in the moment, on the fly. Whatever's happening, focus on your breath. Bring it back to your breath. For the more overarching tools and techniques, what I would really recommend is taking 5 to 15 minutes a day and sitting with your thoughts. Now, to some, this may not be a big deal. To some, this may be asking a lot. But what I can tell you is that, let's say from my experience, I was used to people not paying attention to me. And so what that instilled in me was that I am not worth investing time and energy in. And once you have any semblance of that internalized belief, if you're anywhere on that spectrum of feeling like you're not worth time and attention, that may be something to sit with. And part of sitting with this thing is to signal to the body, to the subconscious mind, to the emotions that it's okay, you're in a safe and controlled environment where you can now invite unprocessed emotions to surface and be let go of. You are then making time to process what I call unprocessed emotional content. Unprocessed emotional content. And again, in the moment, all you got to do is breathe, and any sort of inner critic or judge, that's not you. That's an internalized voice from someone who modeled judgment and critique. It's not real, and it's not you. It's just something to be aware of, to watch. Oh, okay, that comes from somebody. It doesn't come from me, but that comes from somebody. That judgment that I'm hearing or experiencing, I'm letting go of that. I hear it. There it is. Yeah, there it is again. It's there. It's not real. It's not true. I can let it go. And you can go a little deeper into that, into how the person who judged or critiqued you picked that up from someone else, and they picked it up from someone else, and so on. So there's never any blame to go around, because blame doesn't really help. And the anger that we feel, I've come to understand, is kind of like a last resort to setting up a boundary that wasn't set up in the first place, or wasn't modeled to us. I never learned until recently to set boundaries. And so getting into this hyper-aggressive, angry state was a survival mechanism, a survival pattern. And as I learned and came to terms with the concept, the idea that like, oh, okay, I can, if somebody starts and I start to feel that anger rise, I don't have to wait until it gets really bad. I can be like, hey, there's some stuff I gotta process. I need some space. And it's kind of a catch-22, a double-edged sword, in that if a person gives me space, that's someone I know I can keep around. And if a person doesn't give me space and they really want to be in my face, then that's someone that I really want to, not want to, maybe. I don't like losing people. but I may have to distance myself for my mental, emotional, and in the long term, physical well-being and health. So boundaries in themselves are, I would say, are one of those overarching long-term tools that we get to practice and reap the benefits and rewards from for the rest of our lives. As much as it sucks to lose somebody that we've grown attached to, it's another one of those overarching long-term things that in the moment it sucks to lose somebody because there's that attachment. But the more we allow people to fall away who don't serve our highest good, the more we're signaling to our subconscious that we deserve better. And there's that gap, there's that period where there's maybe nobody around, or it feels like there's nobody around that you can trust or talk to. And so there's that overwhelming emotion, the loneliness, the disconnectedness, the isolation. And it really is, for me, a matter of faith to be like, okay, I'm worthy of love, I'm worthy of time, I'm worthy of attention. So I can have the faith that even though there's nobody here right now, somebody will come along. And so that becomes, something that I put out into the universe, something that I embody, and so something that is also signaled to my subconscious as a little higher priority. That, hey, we need a support system. There is no getting through life without some kind of support system. There really just isn't. Believe me, I've tried the being an island and self-sufficient thing, and I hope if you're going through that, that you get through it as best as you can. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm really not. I can just tell you that when you don't even know that you're suffering from loneliness, from disconnectedness, it tends to reinforce that belief of being afraid to connect, and so pushing people away, be it through your appearance and not taking care of yourself, be it in your facial and body expressions, in appearing angry or guarded or shielded. Whether or not the people around you know it, they're picking up on that, and so they're keeping their distance as well. Especially in like diet and exercise. If you're not investing that time in yourself, that's also showing up in a different way, in maybe skin stuff or weight issues, nutritional neglect, that kind of thing. So if you can, and if you're open to it, I would suggest just setting that time aside. Observe your thoughts. What is it that you've learned to internalize? And in observing your thoughts and practicing that over time, consistently, again, overarching long term, that's when you may not feel it at first, but a couple weeks pass, a couple months pass, and your average frequency of happiness, of contentedness, I promise, goes up. It doesn't go up immediately. There's no, cure-all, or there's no snake oil that I'm trying to sell you here. That's really work. That's the work. But it is rewarding. That is something that I can promise. And you get out of it what you put into it. So, if you can, I would recommend just taking it easy, being gentle with yourself. Maybe you work and then come home and you just want to unwind, and so you put on TV or music or just lay there or scroll on your phone or whatever. You can still do that. I still do that. But I still also make like 10-15 minutes to just sit with my thoughts, to sit with what my body is feeling and trying to tell me. Because people may not have modeled that I was worth time and attention growing up. But I did become aware of that. And so in becoming aware of that, it's on me to give myself the time and attention I feel that I didn't get, to give that to myself now, and to find people who are also willing to do that. And not settling for people who won't respect me, who won't respect my boundaries, who constantly ask of me and don't give in return. I'm here, if nothing else, to let you know, to remind you, to invite you into the realization that you are worth time and attention. You are worth love. You are worth loving. People do want to be loved by you. But how much are you giving to yourself? And how much are you trying to pour from an empty cup and drink from an empty cup? So just to recap, in those overwhelming moments, get to a safe space, breathe, and just look through your eyes. Because anything that's going on in your mind is either trying to put you down, build you up, or distract you and bypass from the emotions that are trying to be processed and let go of in the moment. If you can, for the overarching ones, for the long term, for the long haul, set aside time to be with you. You may think you know you, but I guarantee you haven't looked under every rock in your mind. You haven't looked in every cupboard or in every closet of your emotions. And there may be parts of your body you didn't know you were numb to. It's all tied together. It's all linked. The mind, body, and emotions. They're all talking to each other. And it's worth setting aside the time to listen to what they're saying and maybe even disrupt some of those patterns and conversations by injecting a bit of positivity, a bit of what you want to see and feel more in your own life. Give that to yourself, and then that's what you end up embodying. That's what you end up putting out, and so that's what you end up getting back. I hope this helps, and I hope that you're taking care of yourself. I love you. Peace.